Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Dear learners, I am Dr. Sudeshna, introducing the module on gender and education. The role of education is to encourage individuals to develop their full intellectual potential as rational human beings. But education system has long been challenged as being sexist and patriarchal. Gender-based discriminations is the historically first known practice of oppression meted out by one group against another. Of the myriad forms of discrimination meted out against women, education is one of the most important tools for perpetuation of oppression. Sitting in the same classroom, reading the same textbook and listening to the same teacher, boys and girls receive very different education. In this backdrop, this module aims at understanding gendered nature of education and throws light on the initiatives taken to make it more inclusive. The focal area of this module are highlighting social benefits of women's education, bringing attention to the barriers of women's education, focusing on inception of women's education in India and initiatives taken in independent India towards promotion of women's education. And this module finally also wants to emphasizing on how to make education gender sensitive and inclusive. Centuries of feminist and reformist interventions might have made women's entry into the academia possible, but we have yet to go miles to mitigate gender gap in education. India accounts for 30% of world's total illiterate population, and around 70% of these illiterates are women. Women constitute 48% of the total population in India, but around 35% of women are still found to be illiterate. In fact, after entering school, girls perform equal to or better than boys on nearly every measure of achievement. But by the time they reach professional, technical and higher education, their number dwindles drastically. Survivors of gender filtering also performs exceptionally well, but still we find very few of them in decisive positions of parliament, judiciary, bureaucracy, boardrooms, laboratories and so on. Following table will help you to understand the gender gap that exists. Now learners, let's look at the social benefits of women's education. Investment in women's education leads to women's increased participation in labor force and subsequent expansion of the economy. A variety of positive health outcomes like better nutrition, better hygiene, better reproductive health, better child care and prevention from many diseases, not only for women but also for their families, are known to flow from increased educational attainment of women. Education generally leads to lower fertility rates as well as lower child mortality and therefore provides optimum population. As primary caregivers, women have a key role in the intergenerational transmission of knowledge and education. Increased educational opportunity is directly related to decrease in gender-based violence and oppression. And women's education led to the presence of more women in key decision-making positions and thus thereby engendering the patriarchal institutions. Dear learners, now we will discuss the different hindrances or barriers that hinders the educational attainments of the girls. First hindrance here we discuss, that is traditional patriarchal mindset and undervaluation of women. In a deeply caste class embedded patriarchal society, traditional values, beliefs and customs dominate the perception of the importance of education for girls. Son preference, women's lack of financial independence, custom of dowry often paves the belief that expenditure on daughters' education as unnecessary and avoidable. Economic and social privilege also determines gendered pattern of access. Jha and Jhingam's detailed study of schooling in communities across 10 districts of India shows the continued belief in the importance of marriage for girls at an early age. While gender inequalities intensify with poverty, caste inequalities and geographical location, particularly in terms of underdeveloped rural areas, gender differentiated ideologies cut across all social groups. Next, we will see the impact of poverty on the attainment of the education for the girls. The rate of illiteracy is closely linked to the poverty. Due to the poverty or low family income, if parents are not in a position to send both boys and girls to school, they usually send boys to school and retain girls at home to do the domestic work. Often parents consider education expenditure as additional burden as under patriarchal social structure. In spite of educating their daughters, they are expected to pay the dowry during their marriage. Availability and spatial location of the school and lack of infrastructure also negatively impacts the educational attainment of the girl children. Although in the last decade we have made significant initiatives in constructing schools, many of the habitations predominantly inhabited by the marginalized groups, particularly scheduled caste and scheduled tribe population, do not have access to formal school within 1 to 3 kilometers distance from their household. Long distance to school has been one of the most cited reasons for never enrolling and dropping out among the girls. Absence of separate ladies' toilet often pushes post-puberty girls out of the education system. These infrastructural inadequacies increase the girl children's vulnerabilities towards the sexual harassment too. Sexual harassment and gender-based violence negatively attributed towards the attainments of the enrollment of the girls in the schools. A permissive attitude towards sexual harassment is the way in which schools reinforce the socialization of girls as inferior. Sexual harassment and violence continue to be major constraining factors preventing parents from freely sending their girls to school. When an administrator ignores an act of sexual harassment, he or she is allowing the degradation of girls. Public spaces in India continue to be relatively hostile to the presence of women and rarely function in a way to make women feel secure and confident. Transporting girls to school and back safely, especially where secondary schools and universities are far away from their homes, is a critical policy measure that has received scant attention. Gender stereotyping in school is another hindrance. In the process of both socialization and education, educational institutions play a central role. When different behaviors are tolerated for boys than for girls because boys will be boys, schools are perpetuating the oppression of women. The social knowledge relating to gender is constructed, validated and perpetuated by schools through textbook, pedagogic skill, assessment and the academic milieu. Gender stereotyping in textbooks and learning materials persists. Men continue to be the main characters in textbook and to be depicted in higher positions than women, while women's achievements are rarely recognized. Still in textbooks, mother only cooks and father goes to the office. In this juncture, the role played by the teacher is very crucial. One of the greatest impediments to girls' education in India is the lack of committed teachers who have genuine concern for their well-being. It is by now an accepted fact that the presence of women teachers in primary schools makes a difference. It is true that women are preferred to men in the lower grades because they are supposed to handle children well. The underlying gender stereotype of women being soft on children cannot be ignored. But in spite of well acknowledgement of the need of women teacher in the system, the gender gap in the recruitment of teachers persists. Presence of the women teachers in the higher education assures parents on their daughters' safety in the male-dominated system and therefore higher retention. But following tables will help us to understand the scanty presence of women teachers in the education system. All the above mentioned factors in the previous section corroborate in the higher dropout rates among the girl students, and following table will justify that claim. Dear learners, now we will have a closer look at the inception of women's education in India. Education in India started receiving some attention under British rule with the Charter Act of 1813 and obtained full recognition in the famous Macular's Minute in 1835. But women were kept outside the purview of formal education. It is only when the Woods Dispatch containing Educational Development Program was passed in 1854 by the East India Company that a special reference was made of education and employment of women, and the government assumed direct responsibility for making women literate. Some progress of women's education, particularly at primary level, was reported. Initiatives towards separate school for girls were predominantly individual philanthropic in nature. Some women were also imparted training for appointment as teachers in girls' schools, but it is only from the year 1882 when systematized educational data began to be collected quinquennially that the progress of women's education came to be assessed. Women's education got a further fillip as a result of the rise in the marriage age of women and the awakening among women inspired by 19th century social reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Dayanand Saraswati, Jyotiba Phule, Pandita Ramabai and others. Mahatma Gandhi's movement and establishment of the All India Women's Conference in 1926 also added fuel to the fire. The report of the Hertog Committee laid emphasis on women's education, which stated that education should not be the privilege of one sex only, but equally the right of both the sexes, and that women's education would be expanded further for the advancement of education in India. Now we will discuss the initiatives taken in independent India towards promotion of women's education. A closer look into the government policy documents since independence makes it apparent that there is no dearth of gender-sensitive policies to bridge the gender gap in education. These policies include a constitutional commitment towards providing elementary education and the elimination of all forms of discrimination based on caste, community and gender. The National Policy on Education in the year 1986 put specific emphasis on women's education. It states that education will be used as an agent of basic change in the status of women. In order to neutralize accumulated distortions of the past, there will be a well-conceived age in favor of women. The national educational system will play a positive interventionist role in the empowerment of women. Besides the 8th National Policy of Education, India is also a signatory to several international treaties that reinforce this commitment, such as the Dakar Framework for Action 2000, the United Nations Millennium Development Goal 2000, and Program of Actions as mentioned in 1992, CEDAW 1993, the Beijing Declaration 1995, and the World Conference on Education for All. Following table will give a fair idea on the purpose and goals of various educational commissions from the perspective of the women's education. In 1952-53, the Mudaliar Commission upheld opening of every type of education to the woman, while in 1958, National Committee on Women's Education, popularly known as Durgabai Deshmukh Committee, emphasized the need to recognize women's education as a major concern in education. It recommended that girls as well as women should receive not only good, varied, comprehensive and general education like boys and men, but also suitable professional and vocational education that equip them fully for their duties both in the home as well as outside. Top priority was given for expansion of girls' education at the elementary stage. The committee also earmarked special fund for UGC for higher education of women and recommended establishment of National Council for Women's Education. In 1963, Committee on the Differentiation of Curricula for Boys and Girls proposed common curricula for both boys and girls up to primary stage, and the committee also recommended a core curricula of home science for both the sexes to dilute the notion of gender-based division of work. Bhaktavatsalam Committee in 1964 looked into the causes for the lack of public support, particularly in rural areas, for girls' education, while on the recommendation of the Education Commission of 1964-66, popularly known as Kothari Commission, the government declared a national policy on education in 1968. The aim of this commission was the creation of a socialist society, and on girls' education the policy stated the education of girls should receive emphasis not only on the ground of social justice but also because it accelerates social transformation. The most far-reaching recommendations of the National Policy of Education 1968 was that of 10 years of common curriculum for all children, which resulted in girls also studying science and mathematics up to 10th standard. Meanwhile, in 1975, in spite of all the initiatives, Committee on the Status of Women in India, in its report titled Towards Equality, identified increasing gender gap in literacy and all other educational parameters. A separate section on education for equality has been incorporated in the National for Education 1986, whose preamble reads, "The new policy will lay special emphasis on the removal of disparities and to equalize educational opportunity by attending to the specific needs of those who have been denied equality so far." The subsection entitled Education for Women's Equality envisaged three distinct functions of the education system. First, a positive interventionist role in the empowerment of women. Second, development of new values through redesigned curricula and textbook. And finally, promotion of women's studies as part of various courses and to encourage educational institutions to take up active programs to further women's development. The revised National Policy on Education 1992 specifically emphasized the necessity of reorienting the education system to promote women's equality and envisioned a positive interventionist role of education in the empowerment of women. In the year 1988 to 2000, the National Perspective Plan for Women endorsed that educational programs need to be restructured and school curricula must be modified to eliminate the gender bias. Awareness needs to be generated among the masses regarding the necessity of educating girls, the media and various forms of communication have to be geared and a faithful rapport has to be established between the community at large and the educational personnel. 50% posts in elementary school should be reserved for women teachers. In every school, at least one woman teacher should be there. National Policy for Empowerment of Women in 2001 stressed on equal access to quality education at all levels and the need for career and vocational guidance to girls and the women. In the year 2001-2, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan wanted to universalize elementary education by community ownership of the school system. Gender sensitivity was the basic guiding principle, be it planning and management, school involvement, pedagogical renewal, strategies for community mobilization and participation, or specific interventions for girls' education. National Program for Education for Girls at the elementary level is being implemented in educationally backward blocks where the level of rural female literacy is less than national average and the gender gap is above national average. It is also implemented in blocks of districts that have at least 5% of SC/ST population, and while scheduled caste and scheduled tribe female literacy is below 10% on the basis of the 1991 census. To make education more inclusive, Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya was introduced in 2004. The main aim of the scheme is to preferentially encourage backward classes and scheduled caste girls to be in schools. To address the disparities of access and equality in education, Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act, commonly known as the Right to Education or RTE, was introduced in 2009. Dear learners, now we will move on to our next section, which will give us a fairly good idea about how to make the gender inclusive education. For gender inclusive education, we must sensitize all the stakeholders, especially parents, about the values and transformative potential of women's education. Women's education need to be promoted, and positive gender discrimination through reservation of seats and financial assistance for higher professional and technical education should be considered in favor of women. Educators need to be made aware of the bias they are reinforcing in their students through socialization messages, inequitable division of special education services, sexist texts and materials, and unbalanced time and types of attention spent to boys and girls in the classroom. Media, both print and electronic, should play active role in countering gendered and caste discrimination by carrying positive portrayal of women. In this process of bringing about gender equality in an educational environment, the Department of Education should network and work in close contact with institutions like civil society organizations, corporates, and other institutions and individuals working in these gender sensitive areas. Gender training should be imparted to teachers, concerned officials, staffs, including educational officials at the blocks and district education offices, district education and training institutes. Every educational institution and other centers of learning should have a counseling center for adolescents. Adequate arrangements should be made so that in every school for girl students and female staff has a separate washrooms. Adequate hostel facilities must be arranged for the girls pursuing higher education. Information communication technology is radically transforming how we live and work, our future opportunities, our societies, and our economies. ICT can eliminate two most important constraints, that is time and geographical barriers in education for women learners. Women burdened with marriage, motherhood, and domestic responsibilities get immense benefit out of flexi timings. education and information communication technology have been two most powerful forces of change in the last century. To conclude, we can say it is a universal truth that education is the driving force of economic and social development of any country. Education can play a catalyst role in mitigating the gender gap. Social transformation of this kind cannot be accomplished by legislative interventions alone. It needs to sustain effort from all social and political institutions. Thus, according to noticed educational scientist Sadker, until educational sexism is eradicated, more than half of our children's gift will be lost to the society. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan rightfully commented that there cannot be an educated nation without educated women. If general education had to be limited to men and women, that opportunity must be given to the woman, as then it would surely be passed on to the next generation.